Hello, and welcome to the second ever edition of Beep Baseball Talk. Beep Baseball Talk is presented by the National Beep Ball Association's Public Relations Committee that is chaired by our second Vice President Richie Flores. Richie has been and the committee have been kind enough to ask me once again to host this event. My name is Neal DAWG. I am also a member of the Public Relations Committee, and we are here this time to present our upcoming 2023 Beep Baseball World Series that is going to be held in Norman, Oklahoma, starting on August 1st, playing through August 2nd. The Beep Baseball World Series is a 5-day double elimination tournament that is going to play host to 19 of Beep Baseball's best teams from all over the country. We are going to talk more and more about that as this presentation goes on. But first, I would like to introduce our panel guest. We have three people here with us to share stories and experiences and get everybody ready for the 2023 Beep Baseball World Series. We are going to start with a player from the Indy Edge. The Indy Edge won the 2022 Beat Baseball World Series. They were our champions, going undefeated, having a spectacular year. One of those players was Justin Holland. I almost called you Justin Holiday, the basketball player. Sorry about that. But Justin Holland from the Indy Edge did something that has never been done in our Beat Baseball World Series before. Justin, you hit 2 home runs in the championship game that has never been done before, helping your team to victory. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming in. How you doing, Jess?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I appreciate you for reaching out to have me on. And yeah, last year was maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more, but last year was a crazy season and a crazy week in Beaumont for sure.
When Richie and I started thinking about a panel and thinking about players, and our sports got so many stories, and we there's dozens of people that we could have tried to pick from, but I jumped out at me. It's like, man, this man Justin Holland did something nobody's done before last year. Let's spotlight this guy. And I'd like to mention too your teammate Corey White the year before to walk off the 2021 Beat Baseball World Series championship, was the first ever to hit a 2-run home run in the championship game. Again, walking it off for the Indy Thunder, who Corey White played for at that time. But now Corey and Justin are teammates on the Indy Edge, trying to outdo each other each year in the championship game. Let's move on to our second guest. Something that there's a few things about beat baseball that are really unique. One is that beat baseball is a co-ed sport. The first World Series of beat baseball ever was played in 1976, and the NBBA has been a co-ed sport all along. But also in beat baseball, it's a beat baseball. I should have said in the opening is an adaptive sport of baseball that is played by blind athletes. Important to have mentioned that at the beginning. But where beat baseball is also unique from other blind sports is sighted players and blind players play together. So the pitchers and catchers in beat baseball are sighted, and the pitchers are pitching to the players on their team. So the object, the plan, what you want to do is to make contact. So the pitchers are sighted, working with the blind athletes, and we also have what are called spotters that help in the defense. And one of the simplest jobs that everybody should understand, when you have 6 blind athletes out on the field, after each play, getting back into their original spots is a little difficult. So one of the jobs is helping the players get set back up. But Molly Fleming, who is joining us, plays for the Austin Blackhawks, and she has worked, or you, Molly, have worked as a spotter for the Blackhawks, but now you're not only their starting pitcher, but you're one of our 2 first time ever full time. Well, not first time ever, but rarely ever full time women pitchers in the game. So sorry for the long introduction, but Molly, welcome and thanks for joining us. Oh, did we lose you? Did I put her to sleep?
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
All righty. Thank you very much yourself. I appreciate you being here. We're going to talk to Molly about lots of fun parts of fun and unique parts of our sport. And our last panel guest, Demetris Morrow, who most of the time I'm sure I'll refer to as Demo, because that's who everybody in the National Beat Baseball Association knows him as. Demo is also a player. He plays for the Gateway Archers. He's got to be closing in now, Demo, I guess in 20 years of history of playing. But Demetrius also serves on the board of directors, and he is the chair of the rankings committee. So Demo's kind of going to be our NBBA expert as the panel goes on. Demetrius, welcome. Thanks for jumping in with us.
Hey, thanks for inviting me to be on the show. Glad to be here with you guys today. Yeah, this is my 21st season, actually.
I knew it had to be, I knew it had to be right around there. I wasn't sure the exact starting year for you, but I knew it's right in there. Had a good long career playing for a few different teams, but now with the Gateway Archers, one of our teams ranked in the top 6 as we head into the World Series. Just a real quick question for you, since you wear so many hats, being part of the board and having to train and be ready for your team. Like, where's your mental energy? Are you you starting to feel the stress as we close in on the World Series?
No, it's never stress. I ran for a board position because it excited me to help move the league forward. And we're working on that. I think we're headed in the right direction with that. And of course, I can never be stressed out about getting ready to go play ball. That's easy. That's easy. You know, that's what we train for, and that's what we put the work in for, to go out there and play the game. So
True. All right. I have lost my screen because of the recording thing, so I have to go back to my notes. All right, I'm able to hit that now. So we're gonna run through a few things where I'm going to address all of you one at a time, and then we're going to do a little more fast acting questions and mix everybody in. So we're going to start out asking kind of a simple question, I think, for everybody. And we'll start with you, Justin. Why is beat baseball in your life?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I lost my sight about seven years ago, and so I played baseball growing up a little bit. And so after losing my sight, I didn't play any sports, didn't know baseball existed for blind people, didn't know really there's any sports. And so I started kind of digging around, heard about it from somebody, and once I heard about it, I tried ordering a ball, and I live in North Carolina, so there wasn't really a team around here, and we found out about Athens down in Georgia, sent an email, and the next day we was on the phone talking to them. And so the reason that I play is I like to be competitive, and I've always liked competing in sports growing up. And so I kind of lost that when I lost my sight, and then finding beat ball kind of gave me that ability to be competitive, to be with the team, to just go out and be active as well. So that's really the reason that I love playing.
Yeah, and I love that on a personal level, because that's very much my own story. As I also played, for over 20 years. But I think that's the story for a lot of our players. Many of our players end up in this league because they started outside it and ended up blind and somehow found the league. So I'm glad that you found us and we found you. You've been a great addition to the league. Molly, could you answer the same thing? Why is beat baseball in your life?
Yeah. So in 2013, I got married to Jonathan Fleming, who is the coach of the Austin Blackhawks. When we were dating in 2012, I guess I came out to a scrimmage it was in BCS, Bryan College Station in Texas. And it all started kind of there. I enjoyed being around. And then once we got married in 2013, I started coming to practices, and I really just got to be friends with a lot of the players on our team. I absolutely love all of them. And we built a lot of things outside of the field, like a lot of friendships. I've definitely run several like 5Ks with different people on our team. And it's just been a lot of fun doing that. The other reason it's still like I'm still involved in beat baseball is because it's super fun. One time our catcher Kenny said, if it's not fun, why do you do it? You know, and so that's so true. Like beat baseball is fun. Like you never know what's going to happen. There's always an adventure on all the trips. When you travel, when you get to the World Series, there's always fun stories that we come back with as a team and individuals. And so beat baseball definitely fills that in my life. It's super fun. And like Justin said, it's super competitive. I feel like the Austin Blackhawks is a great team. We always go out and we try to compete and give the best show we can. And again, we always have fun doing it. So
what I really love about your answer is that I think that on people on the outside of our sport look at all of you sighted participants as simply being volunteers, just being there, spending your time kindly helping blind folks. And I guess there certainly can be an element of that is true, but the real truth is that people like your husband, John, who is a head coach of the Blackhawks, and yourself, who's a pitcher and has spotted, like you are all falling in love with the sport just like we did. You're not here just to help us along. You want to be out on the field competing in beat ball and helping your team win. And I think that's a distinction that people need to recognize.
for sure.
Demo, why is beat baseball in your life?
I'll tell you that, but real quick, back to what you're telling Molly. That's why I don't call them volunteers. I call them players because if we're players, they're players.
Absolutely.
They love
We're
it just like we
teammates.
do, like you said. Yeah, exactly.
We're teammates. Absolutely.
Exactly. B-ball's in my life because I started losing my sight right before my freshman year of high school, and so I never got to participate in like high school sports or anything like that. And it took about 4 years for me to lose my sight, and I ended up at a school in Colorado for training. And my roommate there came from the Massachusetts area, and he was telling me about this game called beat baseball for the blind. And it just so happened that in Colorado in 2003, when I was out there, the World Series was out there that year, and a team that they had that was missing a couple of years were making their comeback that year. And he found out about it and said, let's go to practice. And I went out there and just fell in love with the game first day. Never stopped playing.
Nice. On this next round of questions, I realize as I look at it that I've somewhat touched on this too much in my introductions of each of you, but we're still going to go through it. Molly, I'm going to start with you. What role do you play in beat baseball?
Well, I think any volunteer plays a lot of roles when you come to play the sport of beat baseball. So when you show up, just know that you're going to do anything and everything. So I started out as a spotter. Well, actually, I just started out as I was on the bench, and I just had fun hanging out with the players in 2013. And then because one of our spotters lived out of town, they kind of threw me in there at practices. And so I have spotted at 9 World Series. And then this will actually be my first year as the head pitcher. I've been backup pitcher for 6 years. So my 7th year pitching, but my first year, like my first rodeo. So I'm super excited about that. But yeah, again, as I've done scorekeeping, I've caught, I coach for the Bombshells, which we'll talk about later, the women of our league. Kind of, you do it all. So
Got to come together and make it happen one way or another.
exactly.
Demo, what role do you play in beat baseball?
I am a player for the Gateway Archers. I also am a NBBA board member. This is my first World Series as a board member. Just got elected last year. And I am the chair of the ranking committee. And the ranking committee plays a big part in our World Series. So we can talk about that now or later if you want.
Now we'll jump into that as you know, we bounce around to different topics. Justin, let's go back to you and ask you what role you play in beat baseball.
Yeah, so my role is pretty simple. I have two main roles, and that's swinging the bat, hitting the ball, and then running to whatever base is beeping or buzzing. And then that's role number one. And role number two is just if I'm in the field to pick the ball up when it's beeping. So I'm a player on the Indy Edge. So
pretty simple. Help my team or get benched.
That's it.
My man Jay doesn't have any worries about being benched, I don't think. So. I'm going to go back to you, Demetris. What does the World Series of beat baseball mean to you?
It means that all my family that I've grown to love since 2003 are all coming together, and we're going to get on the field and battle it out with one another and compete like warriors. And then once we're done, we're going to be able to just be together and sharing good times and have good vibes with one another and hang out like a family. It's like a big family reunion, but with a little beat ball plate.
Very well said. We're gonna talk a lot about the family connection as we go on. Justin, what does the World Series of beat baseball tournament mean to you?
Yeah, for me, it's like we with the first World Series I went to was up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and I didn't know what to expect. Like I said, that was like the year I found out about the sport, and it was an eye opener in the fact that many visually impaired, blind people, volunteers all come together, and kind of like Demo just said, like as a family. I didn't know anybody really, and so going from that was like 2018, I believe, until this year going to Norman. It's really like, for me, the competitive aspect. So like we work hard all year, and then it comes down to this one week where, all of the teams get to go out and battle it out on the field, and one team walks away at the end, number one. And then, that's part of it for me. And then the other part, it goes back to just friends, family, being around, like-minded people for a whole week, and just being able to have fun, be competitive, and just spend that time together. That's what it's all about.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Also, you, Molly, what does the World Series tournament of beat baseball mean to you?
Kind of like they said, it's just a big family reunion where I think we all get to travel, and that part's fun to get to travel as a team, and then to just get there and to spend a week, one with your team, which is huge because you spent this whole off season, practicing, staying in shape, and all the different things to get you ready for the World Series. So to finally get there and be able to like showcase different things that you've been working on so hard for a year, or like we start in, March. It's so fun to get to actually showcase that. And then it's fun to, like, when you're off the field, to get to see people that you don't get to see, because people come from all over the United States and the world. Sometimes different countries come. And so it's just really cool to get to be with those people and to reconnect and kind of just catch up from everything that's happened in everybody's lives. The World Series is just, it's super fun. It's super rewarding. After you leave, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's over. You have that little remorse. You're so sad. Like, why can't I be back there? So it's just overall a fun and great experience, no matter where you are, as long as you get to go to the World Series and you get to have those moments with the people that you love and you enjoy hanging out with.
It's funny how you mentioned like the end of the World Series. I remember for myself, just you spend a week with your team, and you're really close around all the other teams, and all the majority of the teams are all staying at the same hotel. So it's like an all-day affair. It's not just out on the fields. You're hanging out during the day, at night, and then you go back home and you're all by yourself, really. And I always found that like to just be this big like adrenaline crash, or I don't know if adrenaline crash, but just like a big emotional crash to go from all of that stimulation to none overnight. It was always a weird adjustment for me.
It definitely is, but you always hear that little beep, beep, beep for at least a
That is true. I just shouldn't go into the weeds, but because we're out on the fields all day and our teams play as many as 3 games in a day, and there's 10 games sometimes going on at a time. There's beeping of balls and buzzing of bases going everywhere. You can hear it, and I think I saw this from Megan Fink years ago. I just randomly came across it on Twitter during the World Series, where she wrote something like, when you're laying in bed at the hotel and you still hear balls beeping. And that is so true, because once you leave the field and everything, it just keeps going in your head a little bit. At least it did for me. I could relate to that. We are going to bounce back to you, Justin Holland, and ask, what are you most looking forward to with the upcoming 2023 Beat Baseball World Series that again is going to be played in Norman, Oklahoma, starting on August 1st? What has you most intrigued going in?
Yeah, I think I'm just most excited for this year's matchup. It seems like a lot of teams have been practicing, everybody's made improvements, and so not looking forward to the Heat, but and not the team, the Heat, but just in general the Heat. But yeah, now I'm looking forward to just a competitive week, and getting out there playing some beat ball, and just being back around everybody.
Yeah, I mean, just feeding off that a little bit. Our World Series is held every year right around, it can fluctuate a little bit, but right around the first week of August. And this year it's in Norman, Oklahoma. A few years ago it was in Wichita, Kansas. I've played 3 times in Austin, Texas during that time of the year. I've played 2 times in Houston, Texas. Like our tournament, again, is a 5-day tournament. And teams that go all the way to the end are playing 9, 10, 11 games to get to the championship in sometimes just brutal heat. Last year was Beaumont, Texas, that Justin already mentioned. Brutal heat again. So our players are really, Justin pointing out something that's really important. Our players not always, but often are going through some brutal weather to get this tournament played. Molly Fleming, what are you most looking forward to at the 2023 Beat Baseball World Series?
I've got a couple of things. My first thing is that it's my first year to be the pitcher of the Austin Blackhawks. I've obviously been one of the starting spotters. I've been the backup pitcher for 6 years, and it's like one of those things, kind of like as a player, when you're not necessarily getting in on that action, you kind of dream about it, daydream, all those types of things. And I've been, wanting my chance and my shot for several years now, and so I'm super pumped to be able to show what I'm made of at the series. I'm super thankful for my team for supporting me for all these years, and just kind of really, keep sticking with it, encouraging me and supporting me. So I'm super pumped about getting to be the pitcher and seeing how well our team does. And then I'm also looking forward to the Wool game, which is the women of our league game, which we'll again touch more on later. But it's always a fun part of the week that the women of our league get to compete and kind of show what they're made of too. And so I'm just excited about the competition. I'm excited to see our team has changed a little bit over this last season. And so we've got a real good thing going on, real positive. Super excited, super encouraging, super supportive. And so I'm super excited to see where we end up this year. I think it's going to be a good series, and I know that we're going to have a lot of fun.
I love because you've talked about it, Demetrius talked about it, how our spotters and our pitchers are players. They're not volunteers. So I love that you sound just like a blind player who may be not in their team's starting unit yet, but they're working hard and they're dreaming about it and wanting to get in the starting lineup. And for you pitching, you've had the same exact desires and dreams that we've had as players, which really like shouts out to everybody again that you guys aren't volunteers. You're part of the team. You're going through the same things that we are as players in a lot of ways. Another thing that makes our sport so unique. Mr. Morrow, what are you most looking forward to in this 2023 season? Or not the season. So season's almost over now because we're coming up on the World Series. So for the World Series tournament, what are you most looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to getting out there with my teammates and kind of erasing last year's performance for our team. I just made a statement to our guys, like, we didn't really have an off season. Like, we've been working since the World Series. So it's time for us to get out there and see what all this work we've been put in is going to produce on the field. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, I just hope we, put on a good show and play some good ball.
As far as all that goes, for all three of you, good luck to you. And I hope that all those things that you're each looking forward to meet your hopes and expectations. Molly, I'm gonna. This is the part where we're gonna start individualizing what we talk about, and so I'm gonna start with you, Molly. We've mentioned that beep baseball is a co-ed sport. It has been from the beginning. However, in the history of the NBBA, again, that now goes back to 1976. There's been many more male players than female players. Male players have outnumbered the female players, large numbers, since the beginning. A couple things have been started and are starting this year that are big attempts at changing that. One, the start this year is we will have Sirens Beep Ball, a team based out of St. Louis that is the first ever all-female team that will be participating at this year's World Series. But something we've had as part of the Beep Baseball World Series, now going back over 3 different presidents that have supported this endeavor. It started in 2015 with a founding group that involved our PR chair, Richie Flores, a player from the Austin Blackhawks, Faith Penn, a player from the San Antonio Jets, Lakeisha Holmes, one of our more famous female players, because how long she's been around, everything she's done for female players, Kalari Jackson, who plays for the Chicago Comets, and also Rebecca Lewis, who is a member of the Indy Thunder. We're the founding group that started the Women of Our League. It's a group that supports and sponsors an exhibition game that is played each year at the World Series, involving all of our women players, giving them a chance to get out on the field with no stupid boys around to mess things up. And that's been going on. The first meeting for the Women of Our League was in 2015, but the first game played ever was in 2016. And I didn't mention you as one of the founding members, Molly, but you are one of the founding members. Could you tell us, I was going to start with how long you've been involved, but you've been involved from the beginning. So could you talk about wool and how many of our female players get involved with that?
Yeah, so the Women of Our League is, like Neal said, it's an exhibition game. It started out in 2016. We played our first game in Ames, Iowa. It's the Southwest Bombshells. And then the Northeast Dynamic Divas. And that's kind of how we first split up the teams. Now it's kind of, you can kind of pick and choose which team you go to, because we basically have about 10 to 15 players on each team plus volunteers. And basically to sign up, you can go to the NBBA website and look for Women of Our League and kind of fill out and get in touch with one of the coaches. I'm the coach of the Southwest Bombshells. The Women of Our League is such a neat game because it is true. Like, sometimes as a player, you don't get to play as much, or you don't get as much playing time. And so it's nice. It's a nice way for women to get showcased and to get to show what they're made of and what they bring to the field, because some of these players are good, but you don't get to see that necessarily on their home teams just because of, the competitiveness of the sport and the nature of the World Series. So it's cool to get to split up and to get to do that. This year, the game is on Wednesday, August the 2nd at 6 p.m. Usually we always have pizza. So if you come and watch, you get pizza. So that's nice. And then the Women of Our League is also hosting a raffle, because the money for the raffle, it helped pay for new jerseys for us. And then it's also helped sponsor a female player to come to the World Series. So we kind of help them out because it's expensive to get to come to the World Series to travel. So there's a raffle. It's $5 per ticket, or you can pay $20 to get your name in there 5 times. The main prize that we're going to talk about is the speaker. They have we won't talk about the other ones. We have the JBL. It's a Flip 6 speaker. So there's that. Yes. And so there's that, and there's a couple other prizes, and then some prizes will be handed out during the Wool game, but the big ones will be handed out at the banquet on Saturday. So, and you can look at the Facebook page, NBBA Women of Our League, and that will show you kind of the different prizes and how you can purchase raffle tickets.
Look at you doing my job for me. I was ready to send people to the NBBA's Women of Our League on Facebook. That's where you can find out how to purchase tickets for the raffle, learn more about the game, and shout out to everybody as far as the players, the pitchers, catchers, coaches, spotters, everybody that's going to be involved as part of the Women of Our League game, because they're doing it after just about every team on the first day of our tournament on Tuesday, August 1st, will be playing 3 games in our opening round robin. All of them will be playing at least 1 game the following day on August 2nd. And then some of them are going to be end up playing 2 games on Wednesday, August 2nd. And then each of these female players that will participate in the exhibition still have to go out on Wednesday night and do that. So I hope anybody that's in the area close to Norman, Oklahoma, and before we end this, we will tell you where you can find the tournament. It's all going to be played at one spot. We'll lead you to that. But I hope anybody in the area that's close will jump out, not just to the tournament, but go out on Wednesday night and support the Women of Our League.
We appreciate it.
All right. Going to focus on you, Demetrius. Our tournament has a few like unique things that people should know about. One is because we are talking about blind baseball players. Many of them have guide dogs, service dogs, guiding dogs, dog guides. There's so many schools that develop these dogs that it gets a little tricky in how you give a service dog just like a blanket name. But something that is set up, and I actually am happy to say I was part of. I was around when this first started taking place back in 1999. The doggy daycare, so that players don't have to worry about their dogs while they are out on the field. We have volunteers and groups that come in and take care of all the dogs. Also, at the hospitality room, the Embassy Suites in Norman, Oklahoma, is where is serving as the host hotel. There's a hospitality room set up there where people can go, and you could go in there and buy shirts and stuff like that to support the tournament. But also you'll get a good chance to meet many of our players who players from different teams will meet up in there and play cards and hang out. So if you're close to the hotel and you want to get to know some of the players and buy some of the gear, that's a good place to go check it out. But Demo, since you're Mr. Big board meeting, board director and tournament chair, or I'm sorry, not tournament, but team rankings chair, ranking committee chair. Goodness gracious. Talk about some of the off-field stuff, General Assembly, what goes on there. What's the off the field importance that goes on at the World Series?
So, The World Series actually starts like Sunday for as like the business of it goes. We have a board meeting on Sunday night at 6 p.m. Where we will get together and conduct some business. And then on Monday we have what we call General Assembly. Everybody comes together and we get the reports from the board and different committees on what's going on in the league throughout the year. So everybody's informed. Everybody hears everything that we'll be voting on, like rules and bylaws. And so they'll get to, get their information so they can go vote and make informed choices. We have elections that people get to vote on. This year we have 3 spots coming up. We have the secretarial spot, the first vice president spot, who's the tournament director, and then we have a board of directors spot coming up.
All right. Justin, I'm going to bring you back in, get to some more of the funner parts of beat baseball. I mean, all the stuff Demo just shared with us is important for any organization, but of course, none of the business stuff is as fun as things like skills competitions. At our opening ceremonies that will take place on July 31st, the night before the tournament opens, that's a chance also for people in the area. They could come out and see all of the teams in one place before play gets started. But also as part of opening ceremonies, we have a skill competition. We have a fastest male competition, a fastest female competition, a long ball competition for both the males and the females. Plus, we've mentioned a few times our tournament is a 5-day tournament. Justin, as a player that has to get ready, like the team you play for, the Indy Edge, you guys have already played in 3 weekend tournaments. Now you're coming up on this 5-day World Series tournament. What kind of training has to go in for our athletes to get ready for all this?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, I think it varies from team to team. As far as with the Edge, like we try to practice year round, but when it gets around January, February, that's when we really, season kind of starts. And I live in North Carolina, so it's a lot different in other players, all across the US that don't have teams in their state can relate. It makes it a lot more difficult to get out there and get to practice. I had a daughter in April this year, so that really was made it even more difficult to go practice. But typically like last year, January, February, March, all the way up until this tournament start, I'm trying to get up there at least once a month, and we'll practice 3-4 days while I'm up there, 3-4 times. And it's really all about just getting conditioned physically. So at home I'm hitting the weights, outside pulling sled, things like that, doing sprints, but also just the tournaments and getting out and practicing, and it's hard on your body. So just getting conditioned through practice, getting with your pitcher, getting dialed in that way. I mean, it's like I said earlier, a lot of teams have been putting in work this year. And yeah, we went to the Indy Thunder tournament, then we went to the Chicago tournament, and then we just played in St. Louis. And so those regional tournaments are, I really like them because it's one of those things where in-game playing time versus practicing is 2 completely different things. And when you get that in-game time, you get to work together as a team out on defense. You get to go through and have your pitcher get put in some different moments with different people. That's really where, you start to get dialed in and get ready for the full week in the World Series. So.
Yeah. And congratulations on the birth of your daughter. That's
thank you. She'll be there next year.
Awesome. Look forward to meeting her, my friend.
Yeah.
So we have already touched on the I don't know, kind of the family connections of beat baseball. We'd have to do our own presentation to really give people an idea of how much family can often be involved with the teams in the league. I can speak for myself on, like, I've always, just like Demetria said earlier, and I'm going to go to you first on this, Demo. But I just like you said, I've always looked at the World Series as kind of a big, my own personal family reunion, even though we're all on different teams and stuff. Something that people got familiar with a few years ago through all of the COVID adjustments that everybody had to make in life is when the National Basketball Association and Major League Baseball had their playoffs during that time. They set all the teams up in what they called the bubble, and that's where everybody stayed in one spot so they could try to keep everybody healthy and able to get through, the playoffs. But I remember at the time thinking our World Series is kind of like a bubble, and not because we have to be there. We're there by choice, but we're really kind of in like a little bubble during the World Series because, there's going to be 19 teams at this year's World Series, and they're not entirely, but primarily staying at 3 hotels that are all almost in the same parking lot. So everybody's going to be close together that whole time. But for each of you, your families and are involved. So Demo, talk about that for yourself. I'll go to you first, about the family involvement with the whole beat ball experience.
Well, my girlfriend and kids are involved in beat baseball. My girlfriend's been involved in beat baseball longer than I have. She started going.
Sorry to interrupt. I met Andrea. You're talking. His girlfriend's name is Andrea. I met Andrea at the 1992 World Series, and that wasn't the first one for either of us. So Andrea is a long time dedicated person to our sport.
Yeah, no, it's funny. She there was just a YouTube video of the 1989 World Series, and that was actually her first World Series.
Mm.
So she's involved with it on the team aspect of it. She's our team streamer. We stream our games on Facebook and YouTube, so you can go there and watch our games. And she's one of the best streamers out there. One of the first to do it. I think she set the trend, and then
Yeah, she was the original, I think. I don't know if I'm right about that, but she's the first one. Many of our beat baseball games are streamed. A lot of our teams have their own pages, and they stream the games on their Facebook pages. But and that's extremely popular now in our sport. But I do believe Andrea was the first to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And yeah, and no, just coming up in the game, it's hard for your family not to get involved. If your family are, a loving family, and then they, are interested in things you are involved in, it's hard for them not to be involved in it and out there supporting you. Justin mentioned the tournament we had in St. Louis. I'm originally from St. Louis, and all my family is back there. And at that tournament, I think I might have had the largest crowd in NBBA history ever. I have a picture of all my family with me kneeling down in front of them, and they all got their backs turned to the camera, showing off their jerseys that we did a fundraiser for.
I'm glad
the
you
number
said
2.
jerseys.
Yeah, yeah, they're personalized jerseys with my number on them. Some of them say auntie, some of them say uncle. You got cousins, you got brothers and mothers and fathers, and yeah. So
that's
it was
way cool.
Yeah, at least 30 to 40 of my family members out there getting to see me play. So
was your cousin Foster Moreau out there?
No, he wasn't there.
That was a little joke.
Yeah.
Justin, all right, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
All right. Justin Holland, man, you talked about your newly born daughter is going to be out there with you next year, but I know your family's been involved. What's the family part of it been like for you?
Yeah, so for me, my dad and my stepmom, they've been a huge part of as far as me since I played, because like I mentioned, I live in North Carolina. There's not a team, or there hasn't been a team in North Carolina or close by really since I've started. And my dad was a huge part of driving me 3.5 hours one way to go to practice on Saturdays in Athens, Georgia when I started. And so, yeah, they've always came to a ton of tournaments. A lot of people has met them. So as far as family, my wife, we were dating back when I started. And so she's came to every single World Series. This will be her first year not coming. So family's always been a huge part. My mom is actually going to be there this year. So kind of funny. I told her, I asked her if she wanted to make me a bet and kind of incorporate inflation in, because when I was in Little League, she made me a bet about $10 for home runs. and so yeah, so it'd be
gotta be worth at least 20 now, right?
That's what I was thinking, 100 or something. But no, so she'll be there this year, and that's really like, as far as just my family being involved, they've always been a part of it. But also there's, like Demos talked about, and we've all talked about here, is the family of the league. And so since I've played for a couple different teams, Athens, Atlanta, I've played with the Heat in the tournament, and the Edge now. And so it's like being able to meet all these different people. My first year I didn't know anybody until, and now and this year I know a lot of different people from different teams, and there really is a family aspect to the sport. Even though we're competitive on the field and we're out there to win and have fun, at the same time, off the field, it really is like this week of and even the tournaments, but at the World Series especially, just coming together and having fun kind of as this one big community and one big family. And so that's honestly one of the biggest things about beat ball that you can't find many places else. So
yeah, awesome. Molly, I know we've talked already, your husband got you involved, but share a little more if you can on your like family side of the whole thing.
Yeah. So obviously husband-wife relationship being involved, super supportive, great. That's nice. We basically, and I remember when I joined the Austin Blackhawks, Kevin Simpson was our pitcher at the time. And I remember when they put me in spotting, they were like, "We like you, but we have a rule. You can only have kids in the off season." And so I stuck to that with the first kid for sure. So we have 2 kids. We have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they're both boys. And it's super fun in that aspect. The boys are kind of just now getting old enough to where they've come out to a couple of practices, and they, really love the team. They actually went to our last practice on Saturday, and like Wyatt's sitting in everybody's lap and like doing the little chants for different people on our team, and Clayton's out there shagging balls for BP and stuff. And so it's really cool finally to kind of get to see them be excited. Clayton's been to a couple of World Series, our 8-year-old, but he went when he was first born. His first World Series was in Rochester, New York. He went to that one. And then he also went to the one in Florida, and that's kind of, they haven't been to, Wyatt's never been to one, but what ruined Clayton on Florida is my mother-in-law and father-in-law took him, and they decided that it would be smart to do a road trip, and kind of see all the sights.
Yeah.
I think it was just too much of a time in the car. So
I can relate. I'm not a fan of riding around in the car, so I can relate to that.
Yeah, they were like, never again. He talks a lot, and he talks a lot in the car when he's in close spaces. But that's been awesome. As far as my parents and then Jonathan's parents, they've been awesome. Like when we have long practices that are full days, they come down and watch the boys. Like I said, Judy and Bob, my mother and father-in-law, have come to a couple World Series to take care of Clayton and just kind of support us and watch us. And my parents aren't very tech savvy, but I'll tell you what, they were watching in St. Louis. They finally figured out how to work Facebook and figured out how to watch a Facebook Live. So one of the first games my parents got to see me pitch at live was the Indy Thunder game. So that was super fun.
Oh,
then they're
wow.
all like, they're like, wrap you in bubble wrap, because in the first 3 batters I hit with the line drive. But yeah, I mean, parent involvement and family involvement with the kids, it's really is a family sport, and it's so fun to be able to share it with your friends and family and just kind of it takes a village, and it takes a village when you got kids, and for sure, to just make everything work and run smoothly. So parent and family involvement is huge, and I wouldn't be able to do it without them.
Since you mentioned the Indy game, people should know that this was a regional tournament in the St. Louis tournament hosted by the Gateway Archers and Mind's Eye Radio. But the Austin Blackhawks were down 9-1 to the Indy Thunder, and Molly and the offense led a comeback and won that game 11-10. So since you mentioned that game, I thought I'd give a little detail on it. Justin, we are going to pull you back up when we're going to hit you each with one last like quick individualized hitter. So Justin, man, the season you got to be part of last year, let's talk about a few things. One, even though there is an all tournament offensive team and defensive team named each year at our Beat Baseball World Series, along with MVPs on each side, because it's a tournament team and there's really no extra time at the tournament, there's never been a Beat Baseball All-Star game until this past December, when a group from Texas decided to take the mission on themselves, and they pulled it off to host the first ever All-Star Weekend Showcase. Could you talk a little bit, since you were one of the participants, Justin, could you talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, definitely. It was it was an honor to be a part of the first year of them putting that on. I believe D. Smith and Zach Arambula were the two that really kind of headed that on, and
Also
even,
Axel Cox.
Axel and DB. Not sure who all was involved in it, but it was much appreciated that those guys went through the work of putting that on, and I was grateful to be a part of it. But the cool thing, a lot of times with regional tournaments, to kind of compare to that, a lot of times, you get down on Thursday, Friday, you play 3 games, you crash and you're up, you play the last game, then you do the awards and head out. And I think the cool thing, Molly was down there. I think the cool thing for me was, you had really 2 teams, and you had, pretty much the best players of the league, and you're playing each other every single game. So we played a game on Friday night, and it was cool to play a night game, something that I don't think has ever been done. So that was kind of, different and fun to be a part of, but also just being able to have a more relaxed time, be around players that I personally haven't got to kind of shake hands, meet, and just talk to for a little bit. And then also just play some, fun competitive beat ball with, like I said, the best players around the league. So I think it was a lot of fun, and, we played, I think on Saturday we played 2 games, and then we switched up the teams and did all Texas versus the US on the last game, and switched up pitchers and stuff. And so it was just a good mix of switching up teams, getting to play with everybody, but also more relaxed than a tournament where you can really get to know people on a more personal level. So a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that, because I remember as it was coming together, just having grown up I'm a fan of professional sports, and including baseball, and they have an all-star game each summer, and I've so many times through my life growing up heard the players involved in the all-star game just talking about the fun of just being in one place with all the other all-stars and hanging out and just getting to know them off the field a little bit. So I'm glad you touched on that. Also last year, your team, the Indy Edge, on their way to winning their first ever world championship, the Indy Edge had one of the most dominant seasons any team has ever put up in the NBBA's nearly 50 years of history. What was that whole run like, being part of that and winning the championship?
Yeah, fun would be the word. Exciting, and I think when you had and I decided to play for the Edge, and then the other players that decided to come on board, and we all started playing together when we started practicing. And then when the first tournament kind of rolled around, when we got out there together, I mean, we just knew it was going to be a fun year, and everything was just clicking. And it's yeah, I mean, it was just awesome to be a part of that team, a part of that run, and just to really, you know, come in. Kyle was pitching, you know, crazy in the World Series, pitching really good, and we were all working together and clicking, and it just it was a great year.
Well, congratulations to all of you, because it was a very impressive year as well.
We appreciate it.
Molly, I'll bring you up again and kind of talk about the end of the week for everybody. We've been talking about the World Series and the champion. We just had Justin talking about the championship run that they went on. As we get deep into the tournament on Friday, we get down to, it's a double elimination tournament. Everybody needs to remember. So when we get to Friday, we have our final 2 undefeated teams, and that goes into Saturday with the championship game. We have our Hall of Fame inductions before the championship game, then the championship game. And again, mentioning that it's a double elimination tournament, there's going to be 1 undefeated team, 1 team with 1 loss. So if the undefeated team loses that first attempt at winning the championship, there's a second game that needs to be played. That's followed later by our banquet that gives out all of our all tournament awards and league awards. And then even later after that, we have out in the parking lot, we start gathering for what we've always called the midnight game, where pitchers are out in the parking lot pitching beat balls to anybody that wants to go out and hit one. Molly, could you talk about the closing experience of the whole World Series?
Yeah, for sure. You make it to Friday and you're in the undefeated game. That's always a good feeling, unless you lose. But then you have to just work. Then you just have to work your way back into the championship game. But Friday is always a good time. It's kind of one of those things, like you want to make it to Friday and you want to make it to, I mean, we always set a goal. We like to be in the top 5. You know, the last couple of years, we've definitely have tried real hard, and that's kind of our goal. And so Friday is one of those, you're playing either to get in the championship game or for placement. And then, like you said, on Saturday, it's the Hall of Fame inductees. That happens first, which last year was super fun because there were a couple of Texas people or people that play for Texas teams in there. So that's always fun to see people get recognized for their accomplishments over the years, because it does take a lot of skill to get in there, and it's an accumulation of your whole career. And so it's neat to see people get recognized for that. And then they make their speeches and they say thank you to the people, you know, that have been, it's a neat way to connect with those people, to get to hear, you know, their career highlights. And then also, you know, just all the connections, because it's crazy how beat ball connects you to all different players in all different parts of the world. And then the championship game, it's super fun. I've gotten to play in 2. And it's just one of those things, like when you're playing in it, the energy's high, like the nerves, but it's anxious and excitement. It's super fun. But then 2, just to get to be on the sidelines and watch is, I mean, there's always a show, you know, sometimes it's one-sided, sometimes both teams show up to play. And so I always love going to the championship game. I don't think I've missed going to a championship game except for the year it rained. That year I was like, I'll stay in the hotel. But you know, super fun, it's a great way to see really the competitiveness of the sport. You know, usually there's a lot of action going on in the championship game, which is awesome. And then the banquet is usually at night, and again, it's one of those, it's fun in the aspect that you get to see people get awards, the different, you know, offensive, defensive awards. You get to see the top 3 people. There's the Jim Quinn Award. There's just different awards, which I know we can't go into because there's not enough time, but it's just kind of fun to see, you know, who gets picked over the years for the different ones. And then, like you said, kind of the last hurrah of the World Series is the midnight ball, which is super fun because people come out, and usually I think it started with a real bat and a beat ball, and then slowly over the years somehow it got to be a wiffle bat and a wiffle ball. It just depends, but basically you try to hit off of different pitchers and you're blindfolded. So different, you know, players, different volunteers will get blindfolded and try to hit. Last year I I had never hit off of Nick Lopez, who is one of the pitchers for the Chicago Comets. And I was like, I absolutely love Nick. And so I remember being like, please pitch to me, please pitch to me. And so I got to hit off with him, which was super fun. And actually, it wasn't last year, it was the year before, but I've gotten to hit off Timmy, I've gotten to hit off Kevin, like Fonzie, all the fun pitchers that everyone's like, like you love those pitchers. They're like good, they're names that people know. And you've always wanted to know how to figure out their cadence because everybody's cadence is different. And so midnight ball is just super fun because everybody's on the same team.
Are you going to be out there this year pitching at the midnight game?
Sure.
All
Yeah,
right.
I'll go.
All
No,
right.
I love midnight ball. It'll be fun. I'll do whatever. So
All right. Thank you. Demetris, I'll pull you up, and this is kind of going to be how we close this whole thing out. But could you tell everybody where the games are going to be played and what kind of schedule they can expect from Tuesday, August 1st through Saturday, August 6th?
Yep. So all the games will take place at the Gillis Ruther Soccer Complex. That's Gillis, GILLIS -Ruther ROTHER Soccer Complex. That's in Norman, Oklahoma. And the schedule starting on Tuesday, there's pretty much 3 time slots per day, except for Saturday where there's just the championship games, either one or two games played, depending on how many we need to play to decide who wins it all. But the time slots from Tuesday to Friday are 8:30, 11:30, and 2:30. And there are always games going on in those time slots.
And we've got concession stands out there, so you don't have to worry about going hungry. Come hang out with us, get some gear, get familiar with some of our teams, and enjoy our Beat Baseball World Series. Because I believe our panel, our 3 guests have done a fantastic job of giving everybody an overview of what you can look forward to at a Beat Baseball World Series. I really appreciate each one of you sharing some time with us so that we can give a good overview of Beat Baseball and its World Series.
I appreciate you having me. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Yep.
Go ahead and jump in.
No, I appreciate you having us on this show. Talking about the World Series and how much we love it.
Absolutely. Everybody is encouraged to look up the National Beat Baseball Association pretty much anywhere where you might get any kind of social media or anything. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, on Facebook. Facebook is, I would say, maybe our best place. If you find our Facebook page, the National Beat Baseball Association, a lot of information out there. You can go to nbba.org, and that's where you could get familiar with everything Beat Baseball and find out all the names of all the teams so you can follow along. I'll start with you, Justin. You got any closing words before we take off?
No, I don't really have anything. Thank you again for having me on here. Looking forward to getting together with everybody at the World Series, and good luck to all the teams. Let's have a fun, safe, and competitive week, and let's make it a Saturday. Yeah.
Absolutely. Molly, do you have any final words?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on here, and let's whoop it up, Blackhawks.
Just like that. Demo, same to you. I know you kind of gave a little close up, but you want to jump in?
I just got one thing to say.
Yes,
bullseye.
All right. Well, good luck to each and every one of you. Good luck to all of our participants. Thank you to anyone and everyone that might have jumped in and checked this out with us. I hope you follow along with the National Beat Baseball Association. And if you're anywhere close to Norman, Oklahoma, please come out and check out all the action live. It's free, so you got nothing to lose. Come see us. Thank you very much for joining us for Beat Baseball Talk, and we will catch you next time. Everybody be well.